Hello everybody. Yeah, we're finally doing this video, ain't we? Character ages in Don't Starve Together has been an interesting topic for a lot of people, and one I'm going to try and tackle today. We're going to start out with the characters that have their ages practically confirmed, and then explore my personal headcanons for all the others. Spoiler alert, out of like the 20 characters we're looking at today, only about 4, maybe 5 have confirmed ages. So prepare to listen to me waffle on for a little bit too much about my daft headcanons and feelings. Oh, and also, I'll be keeping ages vague for the sake of the video if applicable, so I won't be saying stuff like, Wiley is a 36-year-old man. Instead, I'll be using the early, mid, late year method, so that would make him in his mid-30s. This is just so we won't get caught up on the specifics. We good? Okay. Starting off, we're gonna get real specific with Wanda. The first and literally only character where we know her exact age down to a T. She is 38 years old when she spawns into the game, so it's a safe assessment to make that she was also taken around that age too. Of course, she can also change ages whilst in game, but that doesn't really correlate to her chronological age. If you want to know how old she is in game, you look right about here. And that's it. Seriously. Now we're moving on to Implied by the developers. These are either sourced through promotional material or posts on social media, so their canon status is ambiguous at best. But I got a video to make, so it'll do. First up, Wilson. Fun fact, all of the characters in this category are the original 4. Wilson was said to be in his early 30s by the developers. A man who dropped out of university, thrusted into the real world, who was somehow able to afford his own house. Gotta love the early 19th century. His age does add up though, in my opinion. Went to school, probably graduated. Went to college, maybe graduated. Went on to university, kicked out for destroying the chemistry lab, and then probably maybe worked odd jobs that he landed until where he is now. Or possibly he was kept back a few years in school and college and university. What an inspiration. He does strike me as the kind of guy that would want to pursue higher levels of education and stuck around university for longer than usual, until, you know, the incident. Next up we have Willow. She's a bit of an odd one. Originally she was stated to be in her late teens, but then was later to be said to be in her 20s, which lines up more accurately to how I see her. A character who was stuck in care for her entire childhood and then thrown out to the world the second they didn't need to keep her anymore. She then went on to live the life as a street urchin and find quote-unquote employment under the veil of shadows, carrying out their deeds until she herself was taken not shortly after. But yeah, she's an adult. Sure, she has a lot of childlike tendencies, but that's probably due to the whole, quirks I'm not qualified to speak about. After that, Wolfgang. Once again, blessed by old social media posts, he's said to be in his 40s. I'm gonna chuck him into the mid-40s myself. This man has lived in Europe under ambiguous Soviet rule, served in the quote-unquote military, and then led a certainly unique life as part of a carnival troupe in the United States. He's had a long, wild life behind him, and with how he looks in his physical form, he strikes me as a solid 40-year-old guy, male pattern baldness included. Which brings us onto today's sponsor. Now, I'm just kidding. Finally, we have Wendy. Her age was confirmed by everybody's favourite Clay employee, Joe, in what seems to be a now deleted or edited post, that or I just can't find it, stating that she is 8 to 10 years old. Why did they need to confirm this? I urge you guys to not find out. To keep it brief, the Clay forms were being weird, that's all I'm saying. Anyway, yeah, I'd say this age lines up. She's clearly a younger child, not even a teenager yet. Sure, she doesn't speak like most other kids her age, but that's for other reasons. Though saying that, her childlike innocence does bleed through her macabre facade sometimes. It's real cute. Once again, that's it. That's all of the characters where we've been told their age in some way, shape or form. So do you know what that means? We're moving out of the forest of implications and into the marsh of headcanons. Ooh. These are my personal headcanons and may not align exactly with what yours may be. Do make sure to let me know in the comments or on the Discord what your headcanons are though, I am interested. Continuing in chronological order, we have WX78. Ah, bugger, how am I going to do this? Okay, so we have no idea how old they were before they became who they are now, but it doesn't matter since who they were is not who they are. And that's why I'm going to say WX78 is probably less than a year old physically. they probably found themselves in the Constants shortly after they were reborn into their actual form. Mentally, however, they do inherit some knowledge from when they used to be human, and as we have no idea how many years of knowledge that may be, I personally feel that they had maybe 30 years of mentality behind that optical processing unit. But what do you guys think? Don't really have much to go off of this one, so it's pure conjecture. Wickerbottom time. Now, she's clearly an older lady than the characters we've looked at so far, however, none of her quotes really allude to any specific age other than old. So I'm going to be generous and put her in the late 50s category. She's not as old as characters as such as Wagstaff, I personally feel, but she's still getting up there. She's still got some colour in her hair and isn't as frail and pathetic as Wagstaff yet. Wagstaff can barely stomach unprepared food, whilst Wickerbottom can't really stomach spoiled food. Safe to say her stomach health is a little bit higher than his. Am I really using arbitrary stomach health to define a character's age? Yes. Next up, Woody. To me, this guy seems peak late 30s, maybe even early 40s. A hard-working man who's probably been a lumberjack his entire life, got his own cute log cabin that I bet he made, and a loyal axe wife. Honestly, not much else to say other than he feels this age to me. A lot of characters are going to fall under this category, I'm afraid, since they rarely, if ever, point to their age in their quotes. But let's just look at him. He's not got a drop of youth in him anymore, or even a full mouth of teeth. But Wes? This guy is in his late 20s. Now this is a rather contentious topic among some circles for some reason. I've even seen some people accuse this man of being a child. Absolutely not. Sure, he may act childlike and whimsical, but like, that was his job? You know, being a mime and entertainer that he most likely went to college for, tried to pursue a career in for so long before ending up having to busk on the streets of France for pittance and crepe money? And don't hit me with the, he looks like a child. His childlike appearance is 100% due to him wearing copious amounts of makeup. Underneath all of that foundation and blush, he's currently undergoing some gnarly twink death, so please leave him alone. Never thought I'd say that in one of my videos. Oh, who am I kidding? Anyway, Maxwell. Now, I know this is another candidate for a crazy old guy if we're looking through the eyes of somebody like Willow, but honestly, this man is, to me, in his late 40s. Wickerbottom refers to him as a sweet boy, so he's clearly younger than her, but his terrible comb-over and snobby upper-class attitude leans more towards him being on the older side of things. Personally, I feel like he could even be in his early 40s, but with all the shadow magic draining his life force and the stress from, well, all of this, combined it probably added a few cosmetic years onto his age. Just look at how he looked before he became Maxwell. And that wasn't too long before he eventually met Charlie and kickstarted his whole spiral we now know as Don't Starve. But now it's time for the Reign of Giant survivors now, and the first one up is Wigfrid. I'm going to place her in the late 20s category. She's an actress that had a blossoming career when she was younger, and probably washed up only a few years later, unable to fully captivate and bloom into a lifelong career. A fate a lot of actors and actresses experience if they fall in and out of relevancy too quickly. On top of all of that, she's at the prime of her life, allowing her to assume the role of the Valkyrie perfectly well. Any older, and I bet her act wouldn't hold up as well. Also, she kinda looks like she's in her late 20s, got that youthful vigour about her. Let's look at the second kiddo of this video, Weber. Now I'm going to break my rule of keeping ages vague for the kids since they're all around 10. Instead, I'm going to discuss their ages in relevance to the other kids. For Weber, he's older than Wendy, I'd say, but not a lot, so probably around 11 years old, maybe just 10. He's still a kid and absolutely talks like a young one, but always strikes me as a bit more responsible and mature about certain topics, like being a part spider hybrid. Oh yeah, let's talk about the spider too. We always give too much attention to the boy part of Weber, but never the spider part. I mean, they are equal parts of each other. Well, the DST spiders don't age and ain't really based on any real spider. But let's compare them to an outdoor spider such as a wolf spider, who has the average lifespan of about a year or so, and then we have our answer. Spider part of our spider boy was probably a few months old before turning into his new forever form. Or hers. We don't know the spider's gender, and that's a weird topic to think about. But a good topic to think about is Warley. I feel like he's around his mid-30s, as I alluded to at the start of the video. He's a character that used to hold a pretty prestigious job as a sous chef in France. Such a career opportunity doesn't bloom out of nowhere, so the time spent as a chef in his home country combined with the time he worked as a cook on a boat probably added up to a decade or two. Plus, his mother Angeline is shown to be quite old, which in turn would put Wily on the older side as well, most likely. I always get sad when I talk about Wily, gosh darn it. However, a character I cannot feel sad when talking about is Wormwood. This plant guy is one of few characters who I constant born, and ergo, due to the nature of time moving differently in the constant, could be anywhere between a few months to a few decades old. We simply do not know. In his animated short, his growth period could have taken seconds or years, but personally, I feel like his physical form as Wormwood is only a year or so old, but his mental form, despite being childlike, is rooted deeply within the stone that forms his torso, holding knowledge from a time beyond human comprehension. He could mentally be thousands, if not millions of years old. But again, time moves differently in the constant. Let's move back to a regular human now, shall we? Winona. Older sister of Charlie, I'm going to put her in the mid-30s range as well. Somebody who to me seems like has done nothing but work her entire life and is honestly in peak performance. A hard-working ethic like that isn't one founded within youth. I'm starting to sound like a boomer with stuff like that, let me dial it back a bit. My reasoning for this is just simply she talks like she's worked plenty of jobs in her life and visually just gives me cool aunt vibes, which for some odd reason puts her in the mid-30s range. I don't know how my brain works, headcanons are weird like that. Time for the last human survivor of the video, Walter. A lot of people put this kid older than the other kids, and I do too. I'd say he's 12 or maybe even 13. The Canadian Boy Scouts can have members from anywhere from 5 to 17 years old. With the badges and experience he's got, he's absolutely not 5 years old, and he's obviously not an older teenager due to his childlike mannerisms, behaviour, and innocence towards things that want to kill him. But that could also just be who he is, since Weber, a kid I feel who is a little bit younger than him, is oftentimes a bit more mature than Walter, like in that one animated short where he pulls him away from danger. But yeah, anyway, I think he's 12 years old. Time for the last two survivors now. Starting up we have Wartox. Like, he's a creature we know nothing about and has no parallels to any real creatures. I mean, yeah, I could compare him to a goat, but that feels wrong. He's on the younger side of things, as we can see in his animated short and skins, but nowadays seems to be a bit more mature and wise. Whatever his species may be, I'll put him in the late teenage years of development. Young, but still sensible, mischievous, but observant. Just all around a hard character to lock in on the account of demonic imps not being something that we know the age range of. And last but not least, Wirt. Out of all of the other kid survivors, I'd say she's by far the youngest. If I was to somehow place her in human years, it would possibly be 7 to 8, maybe even something as low as 6. She's incredibly childish, displaying behaviours of a little kid, and struggles with speaking English, though this is most likely due to English being her second language. In which case she's smarter than me because I'm a monolingual fool. But just like Wartox, she's a creature that can't be chronologued easily, especially since time moves differently in the constant. She can be 80 years old for all we know, we just have no idea how merms age. And that's all of the survivors and my headcanons for their ages. But let's not stop there, let's quickly look at our two main powers at play in the constant, Wagstaff and Charlie. Wagstaff is clearly an old man, fully greying hair, failing eyesight and a fragile stomach. Heck, his hair was even greying back in the very early 19th century before the constant was even a blip on his radar. Allegedly, the game takes place 20 to 30 years after these events, so it's safe to say the Wagstaff we all know and hate is in his 70s, in my eyes. He's really getting up there, isn't he? But we don't care about that old man. Charlie. I'm going to put her in the early 30s. She's younger than Winona by a little amount, as we saw in this animated short, and I put Winona in her mid-30s. But honestly, she just strikes me as the kind of girl that spent her 20s stuck out in the country and was desperate to break into the big city as her quarter-life crisis. Possibly in part to a certain overprotective sister. If you want to know more why I think this way, make sure to check out the Charlie video, link up in the corner. But now look at Charlie. She looks distinguished, somehow older too. Is my theory of the shadows aging Maxwell applying to her too? We do know the shadows have influence over time thanks to Wanda. But those are my personal headcanons for all of the survivors' ages. A little bit messy, but with how little information there is outside of the first 5, all I had to work with was gut feeling. I hope that's okay with all of you. I cannot wait to see your personal headcanons in the comments or even on the Discord. But for now, I bid you farewell. Take care everybody and have a wonderful day. Bye bye.